When does a superpower become a liability? And then we take a look at the story of a man just living his best life. He's a dad, he's a husband, he's just trying to make ends meet. But when he has a run-in with his cousin one day, he has no idea he's about to unwittingly invite a dark presence into his home. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. We got a lot of stuff to cover today, so first off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for Asphalt. Woohoo, yeah, tidal wave of hot asphalt is filling up Dead Rabbit Radio Command. This is the last episode, everyone. The facility's been destroyed. Dead Rabbit Radio Command is no more. Blame it on Asphalt. No, Asphalt made a very generous donation during our 7th anniversary live stream special, and because of that, he's going to be our captain, our pilot for this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through live streams or the merch store or the Patreon, I totally understand, I really do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. Quick reminder, we're going to have this episode and then one more brand new episode before I go on break. I had planned on recording 18 episodes before break. It just wasn't going to work out. Sorry about that. However, instead, what we're going to be doing is bringing back Dead Rabbit Radio Classics. And what that is, it's old episodes, but think of it as like director's commentary. This is more than just a regular Retro Rabbit where I do a rerun. What I do is I listen to an old episode and expound on it, give more details about why I chose those stories or what happened since. It's really a lot of fun. I stopped doing them because it was a lot of work. It takes less time to make than a regular new episode, but more time than just putting up a Retro Rabbit rerun. And I already started recording some of the Dead Rabbit Radio Classics, so I'm going to tell you, there's some crazy stuff. There's some crazy stuff that gets talked about after these episodes. Yeah, if you think when you see that Dead Rabbit Radio Classic that it's just going to be a regular old rerun, no, there's a ton more information. They're actually as long as a normal episode like this. The extra part, right? You get the rerun and then connected to that is usually like 30 minutes of brand new content, but it's more freewheeling. I'm talking about the episode we just listened to. I'm talking about all these different things. So yeah, don't miss them. I'm telling you, this is going to be a really cool season for the Dead Rabbit Radio Classics. We're going to have at least a week of those, possibly 2 weeks of those, and that'll fill in the gap because I'm going to be gone from July 13th to August 13th. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be in California. So there's not going to be any new episodes for that time period. So I'm trying to give you guys some good content to listen to in the meantime. Okay, that all being said, Asphalt, let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to toss you, here's a new vehicle. I'm going to toss you the keys to the Bunny Bus. This might be the most comfortable vehicle. It'll actually hold all of us. Go ahead and put on your little bus driver's hat. I'm already trying to figure out what the sound effect will be, but I just came up with it. Asphalt, go ahead and fire up the Bunny Bus. Everyone climb on board. We're leaving behind Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Why don't you drive us all the way out to a house in the suburbs? That's the door opening up. You're like, oh, we're on a spaceship. That's awesome. No, it's just the bus door opening up. All aboard. Ticket, please. You're like, that's a boat. That's a boat. You should have been doing that a long time ago for any boat vehicle. Exact change. Jason, wow. You're really phoning it in with these sound effects. Okay, I'll give it another try. All aboard. No, not all that stuff, Jason. Just get to the vehicle sound effects. Okay, fine. Asphalt's driving us all the way out to a house in the suburbs. There we're going to meet a young man. We don't have his real name. We're going to call him Jonathan. He's in high school. And he is, like many of us were growing up, a latchkey kid. So when he gets out of school, his parents aren't home. So he lets himself in. It's time to make some food. A man after my own heart. He gets home and he decides to start making a sandwich. Now, he shares this home not only with his parent, but they have 2 dogs as well, who we will call Rover and Jet. Jonathan walks in and he goes in the kitchen, he starts making a sandwich. And for whatever reason, I don't even think anything drew his attention to this. I think he's just kind of looking around, you just kind of bored. You don't want to just stare at meat on cheese on bread. You kind of want to look around, right? I'm all making a sandwich, I'm all chopping my fingers off. I was like, oh, this must be the most delicious sandwich ever. Extra knives, make it extra tasty. And I'm all looking around, staring at the ceiling, looking at the floor. You're just kind of bored. He's looking around. I don't know, to be fair, I don't know if he was looking around while he was making the sandwich. There's just pieces of ham all over the counter. He just ends up eating 2 slices of bread, nothing in between. But he's in the kitchen, he's making a sandwich, and he looks over pre or post sandwich making. I don't know or in the middle. He looks over and he notices something. The back screen door leading into the house is ripped open. And he immediately stops moving. He realizes it's the middle of the day. The back door was probably left open all day for air breeze. Depending on the neighborhood, some people leave their doors open all day long. It's insane, but people do it. The screen has been ripped off, which only means one thing. Someone's in the house. Jonathan's the only one there. Rover and Jet, he realizes, aren't anywhere around. And he says, listen, he's posting this as he's older. He goes, as an older person now, we kind of talked about this on yesterday's episode. He goes, I would call the police. You believe that someone's broken into your house. There's pretty good evidence of it. Your screen is just kind of flopping in the wind. Obviously, someone's entered the home. He goes, now I would call the police. But I was a boy in high school, and it didn't even occur to him. What he did was he began walking around the home as quietly as he could. He began walking around the home looking to find either the person who broke in or evidence that they've already left. Hopefully the second one, right? Starts looking all around the house, can't find anyone. That's when he decides to look into the basement. Someone's in the house, and when I came in, throwing my book bag down and walking into the kitchen, maybe someone got startled. Maybe they ran into the basement. They're waiting down there. Jonathan opens the basement door. And he said his basement had this layout where it was shaped like a U. So you walk down the stairs, and then you walked for a bit. You had to take a corner, walk for a little bit more, and then take one more corner, and you'd walk to a dead end. So when he looks down the basement stairs, he doesn't see anyone down there. He starts walking down the stairs. Each stair creakier than the last. Jason, did you grow up in a haunted house? People have normal doors and normal non-spooky sounding stairs. He walks down the stairs. He's walking around the basement. He makes the first turn. He hasn't seen anyone yet, but when he makes that second turn, which faces towards the dead end, he turns and he looks, and sitting there in the basement is a boy. This boy is playing with one of Jonathan's brother's toys. He's just sitting there playing with the toy in the basement. Jonathan's like, what in the world? And he was afraid there was an intruder, and there is. But now a different situation has arisen. There's a little kid in his house, and, he needs to get this guy out. He needs to figure out where he's from. It's no longer a search mission, it's a rescue mission. The little boy is sitting there playing with the toy, and on either side of the boy sits one of the dogs. Rover on one side, Jet on the other. And they're just sitting there totally chill. He begins to walk towards the boy as unthreateningly as possible. He's like, hey, buddy, what's going on, man? Why are you down here? Are you okay? And he starts walking towards the boy, and as he takes just a few steps, all of a sudden, Rover and Jet look directly at Johnny and begin to growl. He says they straight up haunched over. They completely changed their body posture. Originally, they're just kind of chilling there, sitting next to him. Now they're completely hunched over, growling at Jonathan. They're Jonathan's dogs. This is his house. These are his dogs. And Jonathan stopped. Stopped right there, because he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know why his dogs are acting like this, but it's two dogs. He didn't say how big they were, right? It would be one thing if they were little like Pomeranians, but anything bigger than a small dog, two of them, growling at you and hunching over, I mean, it's definitely a threatening posture. And Jonathan stops. At that point, the boy turns and looks at Jonathan and just stares right at him. The look the boy gave Jonathan was terrifying. Wasn't that the kid had a mean look on his face? It's not that he had a monster face with big old bug eyes and sharp teeth. No, it was a normal-looking boy with normal-looking eyes, but the gaze penetrated deep into Jonathan. He felt in that moment he wasn't welcome here. He needed to leave. His own house, right? His own basement. And Jonathan, all the bravado of being a teenage boy is replaced with intelligence in this moment. He just starts walking backwards, right? He's like, and he walks around the corner, goes upstairs, grabs his phone. He goes outside. He goes outside and he calls his parents up and he's like, hey, guys, I'm going to tell you a story and it's going to sound weird. I think you guys should come home. There's a little boy in our basement and he starts talking to his parents. And when he's on the phone, he hears a woman walking down the street yelling out a name. And we don't know the real name, so we'll say Blake. This woman's walking down the street. Blake! 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 She's just yelling out this name over and over again. Jonathan sees her and is kind of like putting two and two together. And he goes, hey, are you looking for a little boy? Are you looking for a little boy? Oh my God, yes. Do you know where he's at? Jonathan goes, yeah, I do. He's chilling in my house in the basement. And the mom's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Listen, my son, he is autistic. And he has run away from our home in the past. So we'll just go downstairs and grab him. Jonathan's like, it's perfect, right? That's exactly what I wanted, and now you can help me with that. So they do. Jonathan and the mom go into the basement, and they go down there. And the mom sees her son and goes, hey, Blake, it's mommy, we gotta go. Rover and Jet. Growling at the mom as Blake is just sitting there playing with his toy. Neither one of them could even get close to Blake. Not Jonathan, the owner of the dogs, not Blake's mom. They were both kept at bay by these two otherwise normal house pets. Now they had one mission: to protect this boy that they just met. But eventually, the mom is able to coax Blake out of the basement. Once Blake and his mom leave the house, Rover and Jet go back to normal. No growling, no threatening posture. They're just back to being good old Rover and sweet little Jake. After the dogs are back to normal, after Blake and the mom left, Jonathan's sitting there and he's thinking about it, and he goes back to the kitchen and he's kind of looking at the screen door, and he understands what happened. Supposedly, Blake busted in through the screen door, and then he doesn't know a lot, right? He's like, okay, well, maybe that part I understand. When did he meet the dogs? Why were they in the basement? But he's looking at that screen door, and he goes, I don't know how a little boy would have done this much damage. Now, it wasn't like a toddler. They don't give the exact age. I'm thinking somewhere around like 6 to 8, around there. He goes, a kid his size could not have done this. Now, screen doors are pretty flimsy. He goes, I don't know how he was able to just bust in the way that he did. Now, it's possible, he didn't put this in his narrative, but I just thought about this. I'm wondering if the dogs did it. If the dogs were inside, and Blake was outside, and the dogs busted him in. Because the weird part about it, the story isn't how the kid got in. He's in the house. The weird part of the story is twofold. One, what was up with this guy? Like, the mom said he's autistic, but Jonathan, he said, he goes, listen, I have known special needs people my entire life. This is his quote. Quote, I've known special needs people all my life. I feel totally comfortable around them. But there was something really creepy about that kid that I've never been able to put my finger on. I mean, originally this guy was walking around his house thinking there was a burglar. There was an adult man in his house, possibly armed, stealing stuff. And he was just walking through the house looking for him. And then he sees this little guy. And that's when the fear strikes in. Creepy kids are terrifying. That's why it's a staple of horror movies. But what was this kid's connection to these dogs? And they weren't... if you saw a kid walking down the street and you looked at him and he scared you and he had two dogs walking next to him and they were growling at you, you would go, oh my God, I've been teleported in a horror movie. What's going on? Children of the Corn plus Cujo ×2. But these were Jonathan's dogs in Jonathan's house. This was supposed to be his home turf. Blake turned the dogs against the owner. That's what elevates this to terror. Because you're supposed to feel safe in your home, and you're supposed to feel safe with your guardians. I get it. People have dogs because they're pets and they love dogs. You get dogs to serve multiple purposes. One of which is, I mean, sure, they're fun and they're lovable and you can take them for walks and throw stuff around and they go run and they've got their big tongue hanging out and all sorts of goofy stuff. But they're also early warning systems of threats as well as deterrence. That was the earliest purpose of dogs. Defending the camp. Early warning systems. You buy their loyalty with food and shelter, and in return, they protect you from nighttime predators or raids from other tribes. That is the original purpose of dogs. Nowadays, yes, you can have a purse dog, but in the middle of the night, if your little tiny chihuahua starts barking, well, those guys bark all the time, but you know what I mean? Even a small dog, if there's an intruder in the house, I would hope, and I would hope at least it alarms you, it wakes you up, it's barking. The chihuahua always barks, but there's something different about this bark. It wakes you up because danger's in the house. This kid turned the dogs against the tribe. Jonathan said, I don't know how he knew this, because it didn't sound like he knew this family beforehand. He definitely knew him after it. His parents might have followed up on it as well, because, you know, you'd be concerned if a kid got in your house. If something had happened to the guy, not only would you feel bad, you would be afraid of being liable in some way. I don't know how Jonathan knew this, but he said 2 weeks after this happened, Blake and his family moved away. Whether it was related to this, we don't know. They could have been planning to move away long before this, and it was just Blake's last hurrah through the neighborhood. But he did note that. He did say that they moved away 2 weeks later. So it's a very interesting story. But to have this happen in your own home and to have the creatures that you provide for turn against you, that would be upsetting. Like, did he control them? Did they empathize with him in some way? Was there some sort of communication going on? Was there some sort of mesmerism? We don't know, and we'll never know. Blake moved away. Even if Blake still lived there, I don't know if Jonathan would hook him up to all these electrodes and start reading his brain scans. But a fascinating stories. Those in your home that you trust the most can turn against you. And not only that, I mean, I wouldn't want to take... I fought one dog. We covered that on an episode. It wasn't the funnest highlight of my life. I wouldn't want to fight two dogs. And I definitely wouldn't want to fight two dogs that I knew and loved. Because I'm going to have to kill them. But imagine that. Imagine... Jason, you're taking it to the nth level here. The dogs weren't attacking Jonathan. He's like, He's reaching for stuff in the basement, throwing Drano at the dogs. No, they didn't, but... You know, if Blake's powers develop more as he's an adult, if someone really does keep taking steps forward and doesn't read the signs and goes, Rover, Jet, come on, calm down, and they stride towards the kid instead of walking slowly, saying, hey, buddy, what's going on? If they're like, hey, you, get out of here, and they're walking towards the kid, and it's a fight between an owner and his two dogs. He has to fight these two pets that he loves. This bloody melee breaks out between man and beast, and the whole time there's just a little boy sitting there, completely oblivious to the chaos he's caused. Or was he? Does he know what his gift is? Does he know he has the power over animals, and he uses it whenever he pleases? I love stories like this because it's just like, it's some guy experienced this thing in the afternoon, right? It's just like this thing is like, this was really kind of creepy. I've never been able to place this. And your mind can really think about it. And it's that kind of just slice of life. It's this one weird thing that happened to this guy. His entire life is totally normal. He had this, and then the rest of his life is normal. And you think, how many times is this happening around the world? You're listening to this podcast right now. You're backed into a corner. Your two dogs are like, growling at you. There's a little boy standing in the corner. You're like, do you have any tips on how to stop it? No? You're all trying to fast forward. Come on, get to the point where you break the spell. Come on, man, hurry up. Asphalt, I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys to the world-famous Carpenter Copter. We're waving goodbye to everybody. The dogs are growling at us. They still don't want to wave. Oh, come on, man, we got some treats for you. Oh, there they go, they're waving. We're leaving behind this house. Why don't you fly us all the way out to the party capital of the world? Actually, I thought this story took place in Florida. It doesn't. But I think this place might be the second party capital of the world. Why don't you fly us all the way out to New Orleans? Where is New Orleans? It's in Louisiana, right? We're headed all the way out to Louisiana. Specifically, we're headed to New Orleans. We're about to take a look at a story that involves a risk that I've mentioned quite a few times on this show. And it is one that... Let's go ahead and get started with it. I don't want to give too much away. You're like, oh, that's the elite click. Shut it off. Go on to the next thing. Let's take a look at the story. We're about to meet a man. We don't have any of the real names. Like so many paranormal stories, people use pseudonyms. But we're about to meet a man. We're going to call him Larry. And he lives in New Orleans. This is his home. He's walking through town one day and he hears a, Larry! Yo, Larry! Turns and looks and he sees his cousin, who we will call Chuck, walking down the street. Hey, Larry, what's up, man? Yo, Chuck dog, come here. My boy. They're all hugging and stuff like that. They didn't put that in the narrative. They didn't say that they hugged. They're like, well, we never hug people. They file a lawsuit against me. That was bad representation of our character. They really love hugging each other. People walking on the street are like, man, this guy's been hugging each other for like 2.5 hours at this point. They just keep screaming Larry and Chuck dog over and over again. Anyways, they hadn't seen each other in a while, and Larry's like, dude, Chuck, you got to come over to my house. Come over, meet my family. We'll have a good time. Chuck goes, oh, that's awesome. My girlfriend, I'm dating a girl right now. I know we've been hugging for 2.5 hours, but I'm actually into women. Larry wipes a little tear away from his eyes. Like, oh, okay, Chuck. Chuck goes, yeah, is it cool if I bring my girl? I'm dating this girl. We'll call her Beth. Larry goes, yeah, totally. It's breaking. It's like, oh, my secret crush has broken my heart. Yeah, sure. Both you and your girlfriend Beth can come over. Come over for dinner. So eventually this meetup happens. We have Larry and his wife, we'll call her June. Chuck and Beth are over as well. They're all eating dinner together. This is delicious. What is this? Jambalaya. Taking big bites of shrimp or pork or beef or whatever's in there. I don't know if they didn't specify that they ate jambalaya. I was just thinking of a New Orleans dish. I get another lawsuit. I'm allergic to shellfish. I can't eat that stuff. It's disparaging my character. Anyways. They're talking. They're just making conversation, because Larry and his wife don't know Beth at all. And so, getting to know her and stuff like that. And that's when she reveals. She goes, I'm a witch. I'm a witch. And not in a religious sense. It's not that she's like Wiccan. She's actually a witch, and she starts to explain, yeah, I can cast spells whenever I want. I can perform these magical rituals and get stuff. Here's an example. Bibbidi bobbidi boo. Do you have any more jambalaya stew? Oh, look, it's right here. It's on my plate. Ta-da, I'm a magician. I'm a witch. Look at my spells. And, she's saying all this stuff. June is very uncomfortable with the fact that they have a witch in their house. Which, fair enough, right? It would be one thing if she goes, oh, I'm a Wiccan. We believe that if we take a potato and we cut it in 4 halves and bury it in the 4 different corners of our backyard on a full moon, it'll be a nice garden. I'll have 4 potatoes. And that'll allow me to create 16 potatoes next year. The magic never stops. If it was like that, or, the spiritualism side of it. I mean, they're still casting spells. But Beth is very clear, no, I don't do this to be religious. I'm actually a witch. I cast spells. And that does make June very uncomfortable. There's a witch in their house. June is upset by it. Larry just kind of shrugs it off, whatever. But Chuck starts bragging about it. Yeah, dude, she's a witch. She does all sorts of crazy stuff. In fact, he goes, one Saturday morning, I woke up and she was straddling me. That was the end of the story. And Larry's like, my boy, Chuck Dog, give me another hug. My wife's knees are so bad, she can't do that anymore. She made you have a spell that will make my wife's knee pain go away so she can straddle me. Larry's like, oh, okay, again, like he doesn't really think anything of it. And Chuck's like, well, that's not the end of it either. There is more. You're like, wow, she is a witch. She can straddle people? Ah. He goes, one morning I woke up and she was straddling me, which is a good way to start a morning. However, her eyes were rolled back in her head and she was chanting. And he tells this story. Beth is a little put off by this. Like, she is annoyed he told them that. Which is interesting, right? Because she's the one who brought up the topic of being a witch in the first place. Is it that this was a ceremony she was performing, a ritual she was performing she didn't want to know anyone about? Is it possible, I just thought of this, I didn't think of this earlier when I read this. Is it possible that she did not remember doing this ritual? Like, he had never brought it up. Because it's just ordinary, normal, weird Beth stuff, but now he says it. It could be either way. She could be slightly embarrassed. It could be because it's vaguely sexual. It could be that she doesn't remember doing it. Later that night, Chuck and Beth are going to stay over at the house. So they have dinner, they're having fun, hanging out. Everyone goes to bed. Larry said that night he had a really weird dream. And now he doesn't go into detail what the weird dream was, but it wakes him up. He wakes up and he's laying there in his bedroom. The room is dark, his wife asleep next to him. But the room seems to be darker than normal. Pitch black might be a better term for it. And that would be whatever. You wake up in the middle of the night, your bedroom is dark. It's not supernatural. Well, actually, we've covered a couple stories where it is, but that's a different topic. I'll put those in the show notes. He wakes up in the middle of the night, his room's pitch black. He sees all around the room several pairs of floating eyes. He goes, they were all around the room and they were all looking at him. He compared it to Scooby-Doo. Like if there was a scene where, and I think even the opening has an image like this, but if there's a scene where there's a forest and there's supposed to be all these ghouls hiding in the darkness and you just see all these white eyes to signify how many threats are out in the darkness, he goes, that's what it was like. It absolutely terrified him. He sees all of these eyes floating in the darkness of his room. They're all staring at him. He immediately runs out of bed, leaves his wife there sleeping. Which is odd. In hindsight, he probably thought that was odd as well. He didn't detail that, but if the threat is directed towards you, he's like, I don't know, maybe my wife will be fine. Maybe she'll be fine with the hundreds of floating eyes watching her every move. He said that he jumped out of bed and he ran down into the living room and he immediately turned on the light. He's just in a separate dark room. Oh, the supernatural eyes won't follow me into this equally dark room. He runs in the living room, he turns on a light, and the way that this living room was situated is that when he turned on the living room light, the dining room was still dark. The light didn't penetrate completely. And I don't know if that was a architectural thing. I know a lot of houses are like that. Or if he sensed that something was off, sensed that the light should penetrate into the dining room more. He goes, it was not lit, but you could still kind of see in there. Whatever the case, whether this is just the way that the place was laid out or he sensed something wrong with the dining room, he definitely sensed something wrong with the overall experience because Larry is not a religious man. Yet, in this moment, he found only one thought going through his head. He began to say out loud, Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. He's praying. He's praying out loud in the middle of the night. He's just repeating it over and over and over again. That's when he sees movement from within the darkened dining room. He sees something in there now. Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. He continues praying. Out of the dining room and into the living room, into the well-lit living room, he sees what could only be described as a monster. He sees an 8-foot-tall warthog walking upright. You're like, oh, that was an 8-foot-tall. Like, it's kind of less impressive, actually. If it was on all fours and it was 8 feet tall, that truly is a beast from beyond. Oh, but he's standing upright, or whatever. Anything 8 foot tall would be absolutely terrifying. And a warthog. They got those big tusks and that scratchy skin. No hugs for this monster. An 8 foot tall warthog walking on his hind legs. He had dark red eyes. Which honestly would be the last thing I would notice. Because this giant warthog also has a helmet on. Now hold on. I know some of you guys are saying, wait, that sounds familiar. Hold on. Because this story is fascinating for a couple different reasons. I got a little bit more, but you're like, you're walking over to your toy box. You're like, I don't know. I don't know why you think I've seen that before. You're opening it up. Maybe this will jog my memory. Hold on. Hold all your questions till the end. An 8 foot tall warthog wearing a helmet. He's eating turtle soup. He's like, oh, finally I won. An 8 foot tall warthog wearing a helmet, walking on its hind legs, and it has red eyes. This monster walks out of the dining room, through the living room, doesn't say anything to Larry, doesn't threaten him in any way, just seems to lumber across the room until he reached the front entry area of the house, and then it simply walked through the wall into the outside world and vanished. Well, as far as Larry was concerned, it vanished, or I just walked through the wall. Someone outside, some Uber driver driving through the neighborhood late at night, he's like, what is that? Bebop! Oh man, I need to stop getting stoned before I start my Uber drive. I just saw Bebop walk out of the house. Okay, so here, we'll talk about the Bebop situation in a second. But Larry was absolutely terrified by this, as I think anyone would be. Even the most professional paranormal researcher would go, I didn't expect to see that. Casper, yes. Slimer, maybe. But an 8 foot tall warthog walking around a house, that's a new one. Larry just started crying, which I think is I mean, that's understandable, right? He started crying. He cried so much that the front part of his pants got wet. He goes, I didn't pee myself. I just cried a lot. He cried. He then drank coffee and stayed up for the rest of the night. He refused to go back to sleep. It's an interesting story. There's two things. Well, there's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, but obviously I have time limit, right? These episodes, can't be 3 hours long, because trust me, they probably could be. One, let's talk about the Bebop situation, because I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be like, when's he going to get to that? So if you don't know, Bebop is a very famous villain in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles universe. He is created by the Shredder, using mutagen, specifically to fight the Turtles. He was a henchman as a human for the Shredder and the Foot Clan. But when he is exposed to the mutagen, which turns you into a hybrid of you and the last animal you touched, he turns into an 8 foot tall warthog with an army helmet. But I mean, it's not, he's still touching a warthog and an army helmet at the same time. He's like, So Bebop is a 80s monster man from a 80s cartoon. He's one of the main villains of the Ninja Turtles. Just like a street thug turned into a warthog. Well, so here's the thing, right? So does that make it more interesting? The fact that he saw, because we've covered a lot of stories like this before, he saw a fictional character walk into our world. Because that is such an iconic design that was, especially with the helmet. See, Bebop wasn't just a giant warthog. I don't think he was 8 feet tall. I think he was around 6. Because the turtles themselves are quite short. I think they're supposed to be like 4 or 5 feet tall. But he did always have an army helmet on, if I remember correctly. You know, I'm a huge Ninja Turtle fan, but my memory can be wrong. Bebop. I'm going to type in Bebop, and I'm going to assume it's going to bring up a bunch of stuff about music. Unfortunately, I was right. Let's see, TMNT. Oh, this is interesting. Bebop did not wear the helmet. That was Rocksteady. So, okay, I was going to go off on this whole thing about, isn't that crazy? He saw a fictional... Rocksteady doesn't wear a helmet either. Wait. No, one of them wears an army helmet. Bebop, army helmet. Mandela effect. Anyways, maybe I'm wrong. I was going to go off and say, wouldn't it be weird if you saw a fictional character... So the toy of Rocksteady had a helmet, but let's forget about that. I was going to say, wouldn't it be weird if someone who did not know of wouldn't it be weird if someone did not know of a fictional character saw a fictional character? Because we've covered stories about that little girl who saw the Hamburglar in real life. We've covered stories about people seeing Mickey Mouse come out of the television set, or Freddy Krueger, or the Easter Bunny, and all that stuff. But all of these witnesses were familiar with the character to begin with. What if you never ever saw Star Wars, and then one night you were walking down the street and Darth Vader jumped out of the bushes? I mean, it would be terrifying. That guy is tall. He's like close to 7 feet tall. Darth Vader's huge, but I mean, he could be wearing a tuxedo. If a 6'8" guy jumped out of the bushes, you're gonna be scared. But what if Darth Vader jumped out of the bushes? You would have no context for it. You would think it was like a mugger. You'd think it was a mugger dressed in some sort of weird black armor. You'd run away. You'd be like, that was a little overprepared. Most muggers just jump out with a switchblade. This guy's really going the extra mile. His switchblade's a little lightsaber. And you wouldn't know what a lightsaber was. You would just see a man jump out of the bushes with a big red sword. He's all like, what you see? Anyways, my point is that it would be interesting because a lot of times we wonder if there's some sort of entity or some sort of phenomenon pretending to be things that we know to trick us into crawling into the television set with Mickey Mouse or leaving the house with the Easter Bunny or whatever. But what if you did not know what those things were? If you woke up in the middle of the night and Elsa, and what's her sister name? Anna? You woke up in the middle of the night and Elsa and Anna were standing next to your bed and they're like, come with us, there's an adventure that awaits and only you can help us. To you, if you've never seen Frozen, you would just see two young attractive women. Like, wait, what? You're all getting dressed, you're like, oh yeah, no, the second you broke into my house, I knew that I was going wherever you wanted. Adventure, you say? Sure, fine, we'll do that. But someone else would go, hey, that was weird, I woke up in the middle of the night and Elsa and Anna were standing next to my bed. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to hallucinate. It'd be interesting if the phenomenon is imitating things that the people don't know. But that turns out to really not be the case here. The army helmet was the clincher for me. I think this was just an 8-foot-tall warthog walking on his hind legs. I don't think it had anything to do with the Ninja Turtles. So, let's scrap that theory. I don't even remember what else I was going to talk about. Oh, this is really kind of my main point. Because the whole Bebop thing was kind of precipitated, is that a word? Was kind of guided by the fact that it also had a helmet. This is something I've talked about before on this show. This idea that you cannot control the paranormal that enters into your life. And that's what makes this story so creepy. He ran into his cousin. He says, hey, you want to come over? And a demon follows. Now, obviously, we can read from the narrative, this is connected to the witch. It's not like Larry said, yeah, the demon shows up every once in a while. But this time, he was an extra 6 inches taller. This was the first time he had interactions here. Imagine and this is actually an interesting thing to compare with that first story. You're at your house. You should feel safe. And someone or something enters it and it completely upends that sense of safety. A lot of us have to worry about that as far as burglaries. But now we added the supernatural to it. They invited something into their house. They didn't fully understand what it was. Why would you? You hadn't even met Beth until that night. And she starts kind of telling them she's a witch, maybe bragging a bit. Clark seemed to be bragging about it. And then this happens. For really no reason. It's not like Larry was making fun of being a witch. He didn't even care about it at all. But all of the power behind this threat was aimed directly at him. So why did it pick him to show these things to? To give him the weird dream. I mean, it would have been enough to have a weird dream, wake up, there's a witch in your house. Let's not forget that detail. There's a witch in your house. You wake up in the middle of the night from a weird dream and you see dozens, if not hundreds. Hundreds might be a little crowded, but he just says a lot. Let's say dozens of eyes staring at you from the darkness of your own bedroom. That in and of itself would be super alarming. You could chalk that up, though, to saying maybe I was just dreaming. But that would be enough. But the fact that you get up and you're walking around your house, you've changed the location, you're no longer dreaming, and you see something far worse than the eyes staring at you in the darkness. You see what's behind those eyes. A beast that's so monstrous, it reminds you of something that an animator drew up to fight a group of Ninja Turtles. Like, it's just this overwhelming presence. Something that 4 ninjas trained by Hamato Yoshi could not even take down. It's in your living room. It's walking through your house. It makes sense that he would not be able to go back to sleep. And I wonder how comfortable he felt in that house afterwards. It would be a long time, I think, before you could really rest. Because, again, he didn't trigger it. If you said it, we were all playing with the Ouija board and we evoked the spirit, and after that, things are getting knocked off the shelves, in a sense, you could kind of take some blame for it. And you go, well, I guess we shouldn't have been doing that. He just asked his cousin to come over to visit, and his cousin brought his girlfriend. It's just what you did to have this event happen was completely out of balance. Now, you go, but Jake, yeah, that's all terrifying and all that stuff, but nothing else happened. He didn't wake up in the middle of the night. There was a warthog straddling him. Well, no, he wasn't attacked by the warthog. He didn't say that the ice kept watching him. I would argue, though, if your house got robbed, and you're like really upset about it, and you feel like your sanctuary has been violated, you don't feel safe in your own home, and I go, yeah, but you only got robbed once. Right? So, like, they're going to do it again. They took everything. Oh, man, you don't even have a couch? Let me get something to drink out of the fridge. What? You don't have a fridge? It's the same thing, right? You'd go, well, yeah, I only got robbed once, but that memory's going to stick with me for a long time. And going forward, I'm going to have a really hard time feeling comfortable when I'm not at home, which is actually more of a burglary. But, you know what I mean? You just go, it does make you feel uneasy in the place where you should feel the most comfortable, your home. It's funny, I didn't even think about those 2 stories today having that theme. But yeah, we talk about it. Ghost hunters know how dangerous the game can be. But Larry was no ghost hunter. Larry was just a guy who saw an old friend, saw his cousin walking down the street one day and invited him home. He had no idea he was also inviting a witch and whatever dark demonic entities attached to her. That power. Her magic. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be your email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great day.